because I think this is an important set piece about Tucker's future and also just about what exactly all of this means for the future of Fox. Now, you have pointed long to this Vanity Fair piece. Let's go and put this up there on the screen, guys. This is important inside the Rupert Murdoch succession drama, specifically about the war in between the Murdoch empire, between Lachlan Murdoch and his son James. James is kind of your doctrinaire, I guess establishment lib is probably the best way to put it. He married a woman apparently who's very anti-Fox News, left the company. It's very worthy of a television show.
My understanding is he's sort of like resistance lib.
He's about as resistance lib as it gets, kind of a joke within the family. So that's James Murdoch. Lachlan Murdoch is much more aligned with his father, much more with the Tucker Carlson view, but Lachlan also is a multi-billionaire who lives in Los Angeles in one of the largest homes. He likes to go to parties, and he doesn't like being told that Fox News is such an awful place, and why does he continue to do this to the country? So he's pulled in a couple of different directions. Who doesn't like to go to Sun Valley, Idaho, and meet with Warren Buffett, right? It's a tough life for these folks. Anyway, so these guys, they're torn in all these different places. The war is over whatever Murdoch has left and has not sold over to Disney. The vast majority of his empire he's sold for cash to the Disney Corporation. Fox Properties, Fox Studio, all that stuff. Fox News, his baby, and the Dow Jones company were really the ones that he loved the most. The Wall Street Journal, that's like his bread and butter. So within that, the war over control and its future is one where they're tugged in a bunch of different directions. Here is why, Krystal, I think I will dispute what we were talking about earlier. O'Reilly's departure was in 2017. That was a media eternity ago. So Fox is very cagey about its average age of audience. But from the best that I can tell, in 2015, the latest study that has yet come out about the median viewer was 68 years old. The median in 2015, that was 8 years ago. So we are talking here, there's no reason to believe that that hasn't changed. So all of those people have actually aged. So now we are talking about a median age of somewhere in the 70s. Now, according to Fox's own data, I had to dig deep and pull from their own article, which they were touting about beating CNN. They average only 174,000 people in the key demographic. Primetime average is 259,000. Consider this. That is pathetic. Now, one of the reasons why the Tucker Carlson show was important to Fox News was not only did it get 3.8 million concurrent viewers while it was live, he had the most amount of young people who watched the show, both live and on YouTube. Now, the other thing is that he was the keystone of the Fox Nation streaming platform, the Tucker Carlson Today podcast, of which they rolled much of his rights into the overall Fox News brand. Now that's over. So what are they going to do with their bet on the future? All of this comes back to, it's not that their business will be fine in the first 1 to 2 years, certainly. What about 7 years from now? So I've been looking at this. The next cable carriage negotiation is within the next decade for the company. They have to make the case that their aging viewers are going to be worth some of the highest cable carriage fees in the entire business to justify a $2 billion profit for the Fox News channel. I just don't think that that case exists anymore. I'm not the only person. A lot of people in the industry are saying this as well. From one of the comps that I'm trying to make here is O'Reilly 2017 also came on the heels of what? Why did everybody in cable become a star? Trump. Well, the era of that level of coverage, it's gone. Even if Trump comes back, nobody's going to cover him in the same way. Right now, Fox News is 10 out of 10 for all programming, but their overall number of views is quite low. Again, the best of them was Tucker Carlson, 3.2 million as of literally last week, 3.8 usually at the overall cap. The average young demo, as I said, the comparison I'm using is this. If you were the #1 classified ads business in 2001, why should we care by 2010? It's cool. It's great to be a classified business. Classified ads, print classifieds. That's a multi-billion-dollar business. The Washington Post company, these people were flying on private jets, making bank. Guess what? A decade later, nobody cared. They're all bankrupt.
Well, let me clarify because I see Fox News in the same light I see MSNBC and CNN, which is that they are all on a path of managed decline.
Yes.
The business model is already effectively defunct, that they are trying to hold on to the scraps of what they already have. Now, Fox News has the largest of the scraps. They consistently have the highest ratings, even as all of these networks have a very elderly audience, and young people are by and large not going to Fox News. Even Tucker Carlson's show, I mean, if you look at the numbers of 30-year-olds who are watching that show.
It's like 200,000.
It's very small, right? So I don't think that whether Tucker is there or Tucker is not there, that they had a very compelling case for the next negotiation.
Yes, I agree with you.
So you can't, I mean, when you have an entire 24-hour news network and you're trying to figure out some streaming play, which even with Tucker involved in that was not particularly successful, I don't think that his presence there was going to rescue them one way or the other. So that's why, listen, and to speak to Tucker's role at the network and whether he was like uniquely good or uniquely bad or whatever, I think it's always important to take a step back with all of these networks and think about what their bottom line is. Fox News has a dual bottom line. They are first and foremost a partisan outfit. I mean, they were set up explicitly as a partisan pro-Republican Party play. And that is another thing that comes out in the, the Rupert Murdoch text and all of the texts that were released as part of the Dominion lawsuit. They're actively talking about, like, how do we prop up the Republican candidates in Georgia? And Rupert Murdoch is actively telling Ron DeSantis, like, I want you to be the Republican nominee. I'm going to push you. So this was an explicit partisan play, and it's a money-making venture. It's both of those things. And so how did Tucker fit into that universe? I mean, his ratings made him a very valuable asset, no doubt about it.
Yes.
Even with advertiser backlash, still a very valuable asset. And ultimately, I think he was also a very effective, partisan. He was a more effective partisan operative because he could be, at times, more interesting and wouldn't always say the thing that you would expect him to say. Sean Hannity, you always know what you're going to get night after night after night. But because Tucker not only pushed Republican candidates overall, but engaged in some of the intra-Republican Party fights and was trying to shape the direction of the Republican Party, that made him more interesting and I think more effective as sort of like, a partisan propagandist for the network. However, part of, I think, where some of the tension comes from and what comes out in like the January 6th tension and stuff like that is the side of the Republican Party that he allied himself with was not the side that Rupert Murdoch was most comfortable with, which is signaled by the fact, that Murdoch is going all in for Ron DeSantis and clearly has made a decision he wants to move on from Trump. And so I think that's sort of, even as Tucker was still delivering for them in terms of money, still delivering for them because ultimately at the end of the day, Tucker is still about, pushing you to vote for whatever Republican candidate is in front of you. Still very effective at that. And I would say probably the most effective of all of their hosts at that. The tension comes from which side of the Republican Party split he ends up in. And I think that, when you compile it with, potential sexual harassment, and I don't doubt that she's got some stuff that was going to be very embarrassing and very difficult and that they were going to have to deal with again. When you put all of these things together and that intra-Republican Party fight that's going on, I think that's why he ends up out.
I think, I don't disagree with you. I personally think it was equal parts ideology and equal parts business. And for Murdoch, he finally just was like, I've had enough. And basically also from what I've heard, people inside Fox are furious, not necessarily about the Tucker thing, but they're just like, how are you so capricious in the way that you're handling this? You won't settle the damn lawsuit until we've humiliated ourselves.
Everybody.
And then you spend $1 billion to do so. It's like,
very
so
Game of Thrones.
You embarrassed us and then you paid $1 billion out. You should have just paid $1 billion from the beginning and saved us all the humiliation.
Definitely the case.
Of course it's the case. And remember,
there's other lawsuits to come. There's the Smartmatic lawsuit to come. And on top of this, Abby Grossberg, is that her name? Producer suit. There's potential shareholder suit. Like, there's a lot more that's coming down the pike here as well that has potential business impact.
Absolutely.
And, we can look from the outside and be like, Fox News is a juggernaut, which they continue to be, even as I do think they're in the state of longer-term managed decline, just like the other cable news networks. But when you are in charge of running it, I can imagine how it feels more precarious. They saw Newsmax and One America News eating their lunch and eating into their bottom line. They see the way that independent media is rising up and, that these creators, sort of like top talent, doesn't really need them anymore. Dan Bongino just left the network as well after they couldn't come to terms over some kind of a deal. So they see the way the media landscape is shifting. They don't know how to handle it, just like none of the other networks know how to handle it either. And so even though we look at and we're like, you have $4 billion in the bank, like, you're fine, they see the landscape and they understand how tricky and precarious their situation actually is.
I think they should be. Listen, Krystal, what were you doing in 2017 when O'Reilly left? Or was that early days of Rising, or was that before that? Before I even joined the show?
Yeah, that was before Rising,
right.
actually.
I was a White House correspondent. That's how long ago it was. Now our show is where it is. We're one of the #1 podcasts in the United States whenever it comes to news. That's how quickly the internet can change things. I'm not saying we are anywhere even close to the par, but I am saying very clearly people are watching us, which it's a zero-sum game in their opinion, and that means that they're not watching, or they're watching the Glenn Greenwald show, or the Jimmy Dore show, or the Kyle Kalinske show, or the Tim Pool show, or the Ben Shapiro show. Any of our aggregate increases in audience is a huge existential threat to all of them. And I think that's a big, big problem for them, which they wouldn't be stupid.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.